What if I told you that you could build a $2 million property portfolio in your super? And what if I told you that 90% of Australians have access to this strategy but never use it? I'm Agam, and I'm a mortgage broker who's helped clients unlock over $100 million in lending. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a massive property portfolio inside your superannuation using strategies that most brokers and financial advisors have never heard of. And if you want a complete step-by-step system, I've got a free training that breaks down everything. Links in the description before. But first, let me ask you something. You've got your SMSF set up, you've got legal advice, you've got some money sitting there. Now you're thinking, where do I go from here? Here's the thing, there's $2 trillion sitting in Australian super funds right now. 2 trillion. But 90% of people never use their super to buy property. That means the average person is missing out on potentially $500,000 or more in wealth building opportunities. And the reason? Most people think super borrowing is too complicated, too risky, or they simply don't know how it works. Well, today, I'm gonna change that. Now, I need to be upfront with you. This isn't some get-rich-quick scheme. Building wealth through super takes strategy, it takes patience, and it takes knowing the rules that most people don't understand. But when will you get it right? The results are incredible. I've got clients who've built portfolios worth millions inside their super, and they're doing it while most people are just letting their super sit there doing nothing. So let me show you exactly how this works. First, you need to understand how SMSF borrowing capacity actually works. And here's where most brokers get it wrong. It all starts with income. The banks look at three main sources. Number one is your mandatory super contributions. That is if you are working a job, a PAYG job. They look at currently, which is 12% of your annual salary, or if you're working under a certain employer where you get paid more by default, they will take the mandatory superannuation contributions. And if you run a business, they'll look at your last 1 to 2 years of historical contributions based off your tax return. Number two, the proposed rental income from the property that you're buying, as well as any existing rental income that you might have in your superannuation. And number three is the one that most people don't talk about, which is the income on the leftover funds after settlement in your superannuation, as well as any additional contributions that you've been making voluntarily. Banks can consider that as well. Now, let me show you a real example. We have our clients, Sarah and Mike. So naturally, on 125K salary, your basic super would be 12%, which ends up being around $15,000 per person. So both of them have $15,000 in superannuation contributions, which are the mandatory contributions. So that equals to about combined of 30K together. As we said before, first thing that the lenders look at is your mandatory contributions, which is based on the salary that you're earning. So as you can see, that is combined of 30K. The next thing that they take is the proposed rental income of the property that you're going to buy. Similar to in your personal name, they take the proposed rental income, do the same in super. So let's just assume around $500 per week as a rental income, which amounts to around 26 grand a year. You add about 26 grand a year in rental income, which equals to a total income inside the super of around $56,000. That's what you have here. Now, looking at the basic way that lenders calculate your borrowing capacity, so someone like Sarah and Mike, how much can they borrow in super? Well, I'm going to give you three different lender comparables. So, lender one, they are willing to lend Sarah and Mike a whopping 500K as their maximum borrowing capacity. Lender B is willing to lend them only 470K, and lender C is willing to lend $460,000. Now, this is the same with borrowing in your personal name. What you'll see is different lenders have different borrowing capacity. But on a basic level, Sarah and Mike will only be able to borrow around maximum 460 to 500K, and then their deposit comes on top. And the deposit that they had, or the total funds that they have available, was around $250,000 as the deposit. So $250,000 deposit. Now, Sarah and Mike didn't want to just buy one property because based on this lending available, they were probably only looking at one investment property. How do you get more borrowing capacity in super? Well, like we said, there are lenders out there who will actually assess your borrowing capacity based on the cash flow you have outside of super. So what we did, there are 3 or 4 lenders, and what they did is they looked at Sarah and Mike's capacity outside their super. They looked at their income, they looked at their existing debts, their living expenses, and what we found is their borrowing capacity capacity with the same lender, which was lender A, was now a whopping $1.1 million of borrowing capacity in their super. Just like that. And that's purely because they looked at the outside living expenses, debts, and incomes, and they were able to service a total $1.1 million of debt. And that's how they're going to buy at least 2 properties inside their super, and potentially more. Here's the strategy 90% of mortgage brokers don't talk about, and it's how you can scale way beyond just 1 or 2 properties in your super. There's a select group of lenders, and I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 lenders in the entire country, who assess your super borrowing capacity outside of your super. They actually look at your personal capacity, your personal income, your personal debts, your personal expenses. And if you have leftover cash flow in your personal name, they'll actually let you use that to service debt inside of your super. And this is how my clients build property portfolios of 3, 4, 5 properties inside their SMSF. This is how you can potentially get to that $2 million property portfolio that I mentioned in the start. And the exact lenders who do this, the specific criteria they use, that's all in my free training. Now, before you get too excited, there are some important things you need to know about SMSF lending. Firstly, most SMSF lenders are third-tier lenders. The big banks pulled out of SMSF lending from mainstream customers years ago. Secondly, interest rates will be higher. You're looking at 0.5 to 1% higher than your standard home loan rates. And thirdly, you will need at least a 20% deposit for the best rates. There are some lenders who do 10% deposits, but the rates can get ugly. Some lenders will do 10% deposits, but the rates can get pretty ugly. But for the right customer and the right strategy, it can still work out. Fourth, SMSF approvals take time. I'm talking it may take you 45 to 60 days settlement and maybe a 21-day finance clause. So don't rush the process. Allow for enough time when you're making an offer for a property. And lastly, offset accounts. Offset accounts are quite controversial in the SMSF space due to the compliance requirements around them. Some lenders are still offering them, but my advice would be to treat it as a bonus and not a guarantee. Many lenders are actually removing the offset facilities due to compliance risks. So my advice again, tread carefully. This is your retirement that we're talking about. Look, building wealth through your super isn't for everyone. It takes strategy, it takes patience, it takes working with someone who actually knows what they're doing, and it takes advice. But if you're serious about maximizing your super, you want to build real wealth for your retirement, and you want to do it the right way, I've put together a completely free training that covers everything we've talked about today. Plus, the exact 3 or 4 lenders who do outside super assessments, as well as my step-by-step SMSF property strategy, as well as how to structure your super for maximum borrowing capacity, the compliance traps to avoid, and real case studies from clients who've built $1 million portfolios. The link in the description below. It's completely free, but I don't know how long I'll keep it up. But here's the thing. While everyone else is letting their super sit there doing nothing, you could be building serious wealth. The question is, are you going to be a part of the 90% who do nothing or the 10% who take action? Click the link below, watch the free training, and let's build your super portfolio the right way. I'm Agam, and I'll see you in the training.